Welcome back to the Leadership Blueprint Growth Podcast. Today's guest isn't here to help you optimize yourself. He's here to help you finally understand how you're actually designed to operate. Wei Houng is the co-founder and executive steward of Vision and Innovation at HumanOp Technologies, where he spent over 3 decades pioneering a patent science-backed approach to human performance, grounded not in psychology, but in physical science and mathematics. His work is redefining how individuals, teams, and organizations eliminate burnout, reduce friction, and unlock clarity at scale. If you've ever felt successful on paper but misaligned in practice, this conversation may completely change how you think about performance, leadership, and human potential. Everyone, please welcome Wei Houng. Wei, you spent over 3 decades optimizing the human condition. What was the moment when you realized traditional psychometrics were fundamentally inefficient or insufficient?
Well, it probably is best defined by my own personal journey in trying to just survive in life, just trying to navigate life. Now, don't get me wrong, I've gotten certified in a variety of different modalities and tools that are designed to help unlock the power of the unconscious mind, of the psychology, and really understanding the nuances of it. Psychology, even though I went to school at UCLA for computer science engineering, my favorite classes were my psychology classes, right? And then applied that towards my business major, minor, whatever it is that I did. Anyway, that was school. I think it got to a point where I started to notice a pattern of how volatile it was, that I was constantly doing cleanup work on a psychological level, helping my clients. And from one week to the next, the same psychological volatility will come up. And it's not because we didn't let go of their root cause dynamics or limiting beliefs, is that every time they went out into the world, they were barraged by all these psychological external influences that little by little started chipping away at their psychological being. And it wasn't until I realized that human beings needed to lean into the nature of themselves, the fundamental physical nature of themselves, and be able to kind of own that, or what they often talk about in the community, embodying their true nature, was when that was when my clients became more resilient. And myself as well became more resilient to the influences that would come at us every single day. The minute we step out of the door, the minute we turn on the TV, the minute we turn on the radio, we're being barraged by a whole bunch of psychological stimuli, which we don't know how to lean into our true nature of self. We're pulled in a million directions every day, everywhere we go. Right. So I think it really started when back in junior high, when I was just trying to figure myself out and navigate being bullied and navigating not being a Breakfast Club kid and with a motley crew of friends that just didn't fit in. And then that's really where it all began, and the big flip happened probably a good solid probably about a solid decade ago, where when I came across this technology with my co-founders, and we basically, which was birthed 20 years ago, it's fascinating. I mean, that's when the whole world shifted. That's when the red pill really presented itself, and I was able to disconnect from the matrix in that.
No, that's amazing. I am dying to know more about this technology. Please give us a high level overview, and then I'm going to ask specific questions. What is this technology? How can I optimize myself with your secret sauce?
Yeah, great question. Well, so this technology is the only patented human assessment technology on the planet today. And the reason why we were able to patent it, because when Dr. Zana, my co-founder, who actually she's the birth mother of this technology, when she first approached the patent agency with it, the first thing they asked her was, "Is this based on psychology? Because if it is, don't even bother. Don't waste your money." And she goes, "Well, fortunately, it's not." Why? Because psychology, they said as well, is so volatile. It changes on a dime. I mean, we think about how we navigate life. Like once we experience some kind of traumatic event or some kind of terrible breakup, in an instant, our opinion and our psychological perspective on life can change. That's why when you take the MBTI one week and 6 weeks later you take it again, it can be completely different.
Right.
Right? There's so many times around it. It's because it's calibrating on the most volatile side of human existence. So Dr. Zana then asked, well, what's the part of human being that changes the least over time? And when you really think about it, if you and I forget each other's name, but we're walking down the street and I see you, I'll still recognize you whether or not I know the words to describe you. Why? Because of your physical nature.
Mm.
If you go to any cafe right now, anybody who's listening, if you're around other people, look around. No two people, even twins, are subtly different. No two human beings are truly alike. Nature, from the beginning of time, gave us these clues that we've been ignoring ever since language was created, modern language created. But human beings have been around for 2 million years. So our foundation of why we were able to patent this technology is because it's based on physical law. It's based on mathematics. It's based on how nature has us be able to look at a tree and say, yes, that's a tree. We look at a rock. Yes, that's a rock. We just forgot to see each other the same way. How human beings naturally were able to tribe together and find resonance with each other before language was because we were able to see each other. We were able to look at each other, understand what was compatible and what wasn't. Greek philosophers used to laugh at humanity, say, oh, human beings created language to lie to ourselves and lie to others. And it's true.
That is
Once
so.
modern language was introduced, we started lying to each other. We started lying to ourselves. We started giving ourselves physical dysmorphia because we stopped seeing through nature. We started seeing through psychological manipulation that language provides us the ability to do. The beautiful thing now, though, and I love it when Dr. Zana goes out there and someone says, oh, your technology goes, well, it's not really my technology. I just figured out how to translate what nature's been telling us for the last 2 million years. It is, we now have the powerful tool of language to translate with precision what nature's been telling us. So gravity plays a role in our technology. Nuclear forces, as long as we're alive, all the ATP, mitochondrial energy conversions when we eat, when we breathe, when we drink water, that's also part of the equation. And then electromagnetism, as we know, electrons are negative, protons are positive. All those ratios play a role in impacting how our mind ultimately uses psychology to view the world. So if you have a high concentration of positive ions in our system, which our technology can measure, for example, a high ratio, you will have a tendency to view the world in a more positive way, meaning you will calibrate on what is working. Now, it doesn't mean that negatively charged people are bad people. They're just really good at calibrating towards what's not working first. And we can measure that. So imagine a leader now saying that person's so negative. No, that person is negatively charged. So use them to help identify things that aren't working because the super positive people will miss those potential problems.
Genius. Continue, but that is genius.
So now you
Yeah.
have this beautiful, you have no idea how many times I've gone into these large Fortune 500 organizations. And when we have identify the negatively charged people, all the positively charged people are sitting there going, so he's not just a negative person. He's just really good. And then they think back to all the different times that person played a role in helping them avoid some really catastrophic events when making decisions on projects.
No, for sure. Yeah, I was thinking pessimistic and optimistic, but it's not necessarily about that way. It's how they view the world, and we can turn that into a positive. They can help
Yes,
you avoid those catastrophic difficulties or falling off the cliff, whatever.
100%. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so how does your technology work though? Imagine I'm a Fortune 500 company. I'm
Mhm.
super intrigued with your technology. What's the first step? How does this work, etc.?
Yeah. Well, the first step is usually the leaders are usually, or decision makers are the ones who get engaged on it. The beautiful thing right now is that it was not until last year that we made this massive pivot. And it's been something that I had been wanting to do since over 10 years ago, which is like, we need to make this mass adoption possible. We need to create a free version of this so every human being can have access to it and get a chance to experience this. Because prior to 2 years ago, maybe last year even, we were doing this on a consultative model. So only those who could afford it and was behind this massive financial paywall. And that's why our portfolios like celebrities and athletes and Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1 companies, even where those are the only people who could afford it. Now I'm so excited because they can literally go to the app store, download our app, sign up an account and take it for free and immediately have access to a blueprint. And so usually when we go to organizations now to a Fortune 500 company, we make sure is there a buy-in on the leadership side because it has to start from the top down.
Right.
You have no idea how many times we go in there and leader goes, tell the people employees must take it first. I was like, have you taken it? Because we won't start down there first because if there's no top down, because it's so different, it's so unique in its approach. It will completely upend cultures because all of a sudden we're introducing a high level objectivity and all of a sudden it's not like your opinion doesn't matter, but it has a very minimal influence on the true nature of how we make decisions moving forward, right? It is triggering though for people who rely so much on their education, the PhDs in particular. They're like, "No, I'm really smart." No one's saying you're not smart. We just need to maintain objectivity, which you may not have because that level of intelligence starts to skew your perspective of the world and of others, right? So if you're a Fortune 500 company, we say, "Hey, let's get the leadership team on board. Let's do a complete leadership type of optimization." And once the leadership team is optimized, then we bring it down to the specific, because every leader has their own little group that they want to optimize too. But if the leader's not optimized, then we cannot optimize the team because the team is relying on the leadership. If we've done this before, just as kind of like a thought exercise, but in real life, is okay, fine, let's optimize your team first since you're being so stubborn as a leader. And all of a sudden, the team was optimized, but they were speaking a totally different language that the leader couldn't comprehend anymore. And the leader felt a little bit challenged and almost like, "What did you do? Why can't I connect with my people anymore?" It says, "Do you not understand them anymore?" It's like they're talking a totally different language. I said, "Did you take the assessment?" They're like, "Not yet." I'm like, "Oh my God. Dude, we've been spending weeks optimizing your team, and are they performing better? Yes, but I don't even know what role I play anymore because you haven't been part of it yet. You need to exit out of the matrix of the current corporate system and move into this dynamic like ASAP."
No, for sure. I'm a little curious as to what type of I mean, I'm definitely gonna take the test afterwards, but like what
Yeah.
type of questions do you guys ask? Or is there a set number of archetypes? Maybe that's an incorrect word I should use, but
Mhm.
a different like a certain number of a way that someone is designed, if that kind of makes sense, or is every person truly unique?
So I geeked out a little bit. Just like when I was building this new algorithm for our app and everything, I had to build out all these algorithms and everything. And out of curiosity, I said, "How many different possibilities can we potentially have at night right now?"
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
12 digits worth of possibilities, meaning no two human beings on the planet will ever have the same result. And because we consider our technology a living technology, because it's calibrated with nature, guess what? From one season to, and this is why we make sure that we unlock the technology to be able to have people take it once every 90 days. Every season, human beings fluctuate. You
Mhm.
know yourself, right? We all know, like in the wintertime, we behave very differently than when we're in the summertime, right? Our technology can give you the data to understand how you fluctuate as a human being uniquely from one season to the next. So even from one season to the next, it's not like you're going to do a 180 shift and change. There's subtle volumes. So every element that we have, from your traits to your motivational drivers to your communication style to your relational alchemy to your energy pool, which is your gas tank. Yes, we can actually identify how big your gas tank is so you know how much energy you have to work with every single day. Those volumes that are associated with each of those categories, they're not going to be massive changes from one season to the next because you're still that same human being, but certain volumes will change. Meaning, like you'll know that some people in the wintertime, they'll be more likely to be passive than active. But there are people who become more active actually, right? They go snowboarding and they go skiing, and then during the summer they're a little bit more relaxing, right? And vice versa.
Mhm.
And in the summertime, certain other volumes and the same traits that you have will actually adjust and adapt depending what is unfolding in nature. When life happens, we often encourage people to go take the assessment just to see whether or not they're optimally navigating the challenge that is in front of them at this very moment. And if they're not, the technology will actually provide a blueprint on how best to navigate the challenge you're experiencing at this moment. So
That
it's
is
very much a
so
living
cool.
technology.
So sorry to interrupt. That is so cool. I had like a subconscious idea that I do act a bit different in the summer and winter time. I feel like I'm more social. I'm more outgoing in the summer. I'm in Utah right now, and it's obviously the winter time,
Right.
January for those listening afterwards. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to go anywhere. Like, I want to work, stay inside, stay warm. It is a bit different though. Like, we definitely act a bit different in every season. Wait, you brought up the word gas tank. Now, I'm a huge fan of Alex Hormozy. I think he provides so many gems for free on YouTube. But if I look at him, he seems like exhausted producing this content. And he's producing one long form YouTube video a day, 5 shorts a day. He talks about making, 20 or puts in 25 hours a week just in content, but he just looks exhausted. And I kind of feel guilty not working 80 hours a week that Elon or Alex Hermosi does. And I'm beating myself up because like, man, like 2 o'clock rolls around, I start to crash. I'm like, what is going on? But this guy just keeps going. So
Oh,
what
I'll
would you
tell
say?
you why.
Yeah.
Actually, there's certain human beings that have access to a specific trait called the sympathetic trait. The sympathetic trait is a positively charged trait, but it's a very passive and relaxed trait. It's when you're in that part of you actually requires a power nap between 2 to 5 every single day just to maximize your energy optimization protocols. If you can get the 10 to 15 or even 20-minute power nap in between 2 to 5, you'll literally have 2 days in one.
Thank you so much for saying that. Because I do that, but I felt sorry for yelling. I felt so guilty. Like I would tell myself, "There's no way I'm going to be successful. You're taking a nap during the day. You're a loser. What's wrong with you? Get your ass up and work." But I'm like,
That's that brosive hustle culture, and that's big. It's actually pretty big where you live too. There's a huge culture that it's all about that, and they did seminars and workshops. I actually had to respond to some post that some guy shaming a brother of his or somebody that he works with for talking to his wife, and his wife was like sheepishly saying, "Well, he's taking a nap." It's like, that guy will never be successful. I'm like, oh God, this is the distortion that we're dealing with right here. No, everybody's different. And so I have multi-millionaire clients that are religious about taking their naps in the middle of the day because they know they have access to that sympathetic trait. What people don't realize is if you don't have that trait, you won't understand it. And that trait is it's where the natural born healer lives. It's the part of you that thrives in holding space for people and being able to just, be a good listener. That's where that nap comes from. We also call it the sexy trait because it's the part of you that is so laid back. It's very disarming by nature. And I could tell from the moment we connected, you talked, and just the willingness for you to, it's so welcoming. And that's part of it's built into you. And whether or not you lean into it, that's a whole different story. But at least you know that you were born and that's part of their nature of you that won't take away energy by leaning into that.
That is so crazy how you picked up on that and how the sympathetic trait is correlating with becoming a healer. Because I love metaphysics. I have a Reiki master. I clean my
Right?
chakras,
There you
whatever.
go.
And they always say you have such like good, calming, loving energy. Like continue to be you. I'm like, well, thanks, but it's just interesting how you picked up on it, and also now there's a term or a definition behind it. So I'm not
Yeah.
crazy, is what you're saying.
No, you're not. And here's the thing, Mr. Alex Hormozy has some access to that as well. And because he has subscribed to this hustle to survive and thinks that that's the only way to be successful because that's what he used to achieve the initial big leap success that he's had. His next steps in life is being able to embrace in fact that, hey, he could probably be one of those people that can totally maximize having that midday power nap. Now, power nap doesn't necessarily mean you literally just fall asleep. You can close your eyes and do a power meditation as long as the key thing is checking out completely
Hmm.
for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And any brosive hustle community dude that says those 10 to 15, 20 minutes is then they are burning out on some other level. And they're not recognizing the value of that powerful pause that every human being truly should take every once in a while. The concept of, stop and smell the roses and, drink the coffee, whatever that phrasing is. It is so much more profound than just an anecdote quote. We live in a society where AI is supposed to make our lives easier. And just like everything else, like technology and internet was supposed to do. And yet we're waking up to the fact that we keep getting busier and busier and busier. And it's not because technology, it's not because of that. Technology was created to help make life easier and give us more freedom to be able to take those pauses. But we're on such a cultivated, indoctrinated cycle of just keep going, and feeling like you're saying, feeling guilty and like shamed by society and culture because you're pausing. What do you mean you're taking a break? What kind of loser are you? No, that's that's the distortion. That's the distortion that's happening of people who don't know themselves and they projected what has created some level of success in one part of their life. and then made it a generalization for everyone to follow. And anybody who doesn't attach to their ideology, well, they suck and they're losers. And that's the challenge that we see in the world today is we're not able to connect to our true selves. And so instead we identify or attach ourselves or our existence to ideologies. I mean, there's a whole separate platform that we can talk about that, but yeah, that's essentially what's going on.
I'm totally grateful, to be born and raised here in the United States. I feel like our culture though is like we're workaholics. Like we just love to work. And if you're not a workaholic, you get shunned for it. Like
Yeah.
how is like what? Like what? Why? What?
Well, I mean,
Anyways.
that we're it's funny that you say that because I was just laughing at us like the other day with one of my our community members, and I was like saying, "Yeah, but then as abundantly, capitalistic that we are in this country, we're not even the top 100 of the happiest countries in the world.
That's
What does that
so
tell you?"
true. Yes, exactly, exactly. Wait, I do kind of want to talk about your technology if you don't mind.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
you describe HumanOp as a system upgrade rather than a tool. Can you kind of unpack the difference for leaders listening?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both actually, but when
Okay.
people apply the HumanOp technology as a tool, what it provides them and affords them the ability to do is to upgrade the system. Fundamentally, our approach to understanding human beings and helping a human being is first and foremost to establish the premise that fundamentally there's nothing wrong with anyone. Period. If we go into the science of physics and nuclear forces, we recognize in all of the universe, in nature, there are strong states and there are weak states. There's high tide and there's low tide, right? Nobody goes to I mean, some people do, but nobody really goes to the ocean and goes, oh, it's low tide. Ocean, you suck. Or like, it's high tide. Ocean, you suck. Or you're great. Or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Yet human beings are just as susceptible to strong state expressions of self or weak state expressions of self. Now, when we stay in the weak state expression of self for prolonged periods of time, we learn to survive. And this is the beautiful thing about human beings. The pros and cons of human beings are essentially this: we're brilliant, amazingly designed machines that can be taught and trained to do anything. That's the pro. The con is we're brilliantly designed machines that can be taught and trained to do anything. It's a double edged sword.
Right, right.
Because just because we can learn it and perform it doesn't mean we're naturally designed to do it, unlike most other things in nature. And that's why it makes it so hard for people to connect with the idea that, hey, there are things that you're naturally good at and the things that you're not. But just because you can learn to do what you're not good at doesn't mean you should be doing it. Because what we found in our research over the last 20 years is that when people lean into doing things that they're not naturally designed to do, and although they can be trained to do it relatively well, and I mean relatively well because someone who's naturally capable to do it will just shoot through the stratosphere with their performance of it. But sometimes we don't have that comparison. So we think, hey, I'm doing pretty well. I'm getting A pluses, whatever the case may be. But then what they recognize is, or what they don't realize is that this is why you're burning out. It takes so much more energy to do the same thing that you're unnaturally good at than it is for someone who's naturally good at it and they do it almost what they say effortlessly. And then when they don't understand this distinction, they get bitter at the people who have it naturally designed in them. It's like, wow, they're just born to do that. Us people, we have to work so hard to do it and we have to burn ourselves out to do it and everything like that. And then thus creates this weird distortion in our culture of what really is happening is you just decided to take a path of doing things that's unnatural to you. And the hard part is because you're human, you can get away with it until you realize you're burnt out. And now you're like going, what do I do now?
Yeah, you're almost living in harmony with yourself, or not your truest potential, but more so just living in harmony with what you could be doing. And when you do switch lanes, one might say, you start to notice that life has become more free flow, or I'm more passionate about this. I don't have as much stress, and I'm also excelling at the new thing that I'm doing.
Yes, yes. And the cool thing is the problem is previously before HumanOp is that it was trial and error, right? And then do I gaslight myself to convince myself that everything that I've been raised to believe I'm supposed to be good at is not good at? So how do I know this is a different gaslight that is supposed to be me, right? The
Mm.
beautiful thing about now that we have this technology at our fingertips, we can use science and nature to validate what we've intrinsically and intuitively known all our lives, but we're just never given permission to lean into it. Most of the time when people take the assessment, they're not sitting there going, I never knew that about myself. Well, that's new. It's more like, oh my God, I knew it. I knew this in my bones since like I was in school. Gosh, I wish this was around back then. That's usually what happens. And I'll tell you, me being an engineer, I spent the last 10 plus years trying to debunk this thing because I'm just like poking holes, poking holes, poking holes. I was like, nope, nature's nature. It's better than me. Okay.
No, for sure. How does understanding one's operational design reduce burnout instead of just improving productivity?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So, yeah, a lot of tools out there are focused on productivity, right? And they say, well, it's a cost analysis right here. It's like, well, if I get more productivity for a certain period of time, we can accommodate some burnout. We'll just use medical to back it up, whatever. We use comms, so we'll give them paid time off. No, that's not the solution.
That's funny.
Like, so what you want to do, what so the question is basically, well, how do we then justify those types of dynamics in terms of, so when we take the assessment and then you know that you're designed to do things a certain way, right? It now gives you a objective opportunity to make better choices moving forward. Does that make
Got
sense?
you.
I don't know if that answered the question or not. Did it?
But 100%, it definitely did. So, as an example, I just completed the assessment. I guess what information would I learn about myself? What are some new insights that I would gather? Yeah.
Thank you so much for asking that, because I'll tell you something. Our culture is so hungry and so burnt out on all these different ways to fix things in our lives that we no longer have the patience to really kind of take the time to read, take the time to ingest results. Everybody wants to quick fix the magic pill because I've already done so many of these. I'm burnt out. Show me something that I don't. So what we always do is we spend a lot of time educating people. It's like, hey, this is not your typical assessment. The reason why we're the only one that's patented is because it's going to give you truly objective and unique data. So when people take the assessment and they're done, our HumanOp authentic intelligence engine immediately does a quick evaluation and produces some, like, this is what I see. This is my initial understanding of what you're all about. Now, it's a lot of text in the beginning. I mean, it's not a lot. It's like a paragraph or so, right? But you'd be surprised how many people go click, click, click. I don't want to read it. I don't want to read it. I say, dude, this is you. It's telling you about you. But I think people are so burnt on just generic like responses and that they don't realize that we've designed a system that completely customizes your results for you. Then when you get the initial high level, like, hey, these are the traits that I see, these are the drivers, this is what drives you, this is how you communicate and connect with the world, then it drops you into a full video library that is customized and personalized to you, giving you an opportunity to really dive deep into not only understanding the ecosystem and the language and everything like that, but understanding you. And so we always encourage people, it's like, hey, it's about 40 to 50 minutes worth of video content that has been customized for you. And it's for you to finally give you the leverage point to break free from whatever's been keeping you stuck and burning out. If you can't take the time to invest less than an hour for yourself just so that you can finally be released from the matrix of misunderstanding, then maybe you don't want to be out of the matrix. Maybe you don't want to get better. You know, I love that you step to embracing the fact that you're into the healing arts. You're into all, even though you're a business consultant and stuff like that, right? It's that kind of like multifaceted human being that is actually doing the business. Those are the people that we love to support, the seekers, the one who truly are never give up on seeking, on finding the best pathway for themselves, which means that they're investing in themselves, whether it be time or energy or any of that. We've already taken away the price point, the cost wall of getting access to the most fundamental results. And if people still can't take the time to do what people used to pay hundreds, thousands of dollars for, you know, but then again, if they don't know the history, they don't know, right? So
I was gonna ask, now that the technology is free and it's an app on my phone, how do you work with athletes, Fortune 100 companies? Essentially, does their team take the assessment and then you consult them on like what that means, kind of in person, or how
yeah,
would that work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely one way to do it because what happens is what the app shows are the fundamental authentic elements of your being, which is more than enough for most people to just be able to completely turn their lives around. What we see on the back end on the algorithm, and you see it, it's like a whole matrix of numbers and codes and everything like that, shares even deeper information. Once you take it, since we've been able to connect on this level, let me know. We'll jump on a separate call and I'll take you down that rabbit hole so deep your mind's gonna explode, but you're gonna love it because it's like I'll be Morpheus, you be Neo, and I'll take you out of the Matrix and teach you kung fu, right?
Yeah, I'm excited for that. No, for sure. Thank you. It's so interesting how you bring up like personal development, and at least for me, I feel as if I'm obsessed with getting better. And I don't know where that comes from, but I feel like I don't want to look back one day and say I didn't max out my full potential. So I guess to leaders who are resistant with this new technology, what is something that you can say to possibly open up their mind to take your assessment, just to give it a shot?
Great question. And I've dealt with a lot of those, to be honest.
Okay.
Because they recognize the value, right? And so they want to give that value and they care about their people. And so they actually bring us in initially to work with their people. And I say, well, how about you? It says, well, we'll take care of me afterwards. It's like that Simon Sinek. I love the Simon Sinek, start with why. The other book that he had, Leaders Eat Last, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. Because if you're operating with a half tank, then you're only going to be able to give a half tank. I mean, your 100% is half a tank of you. It's like, how's that work, right?
Right, right. That's
But
good.
usually, I'll tell you this based on my experience of leaders who are resistant to it. It's not that they don't want to better themselves. It's not that they want to be better leaders. Is that they've learned to figure out how to navigate the current minefield that they're in right now to create some level of success. I had a client that was had a business that was a global business that was bringing about 10 million a year, and he thought that was great. Why? Because his whole network and people in his life, they nobody was making that much, and so he thought he that was like him being really truly successful. When I looked at his business and I looked at him and I said, he's totally under optimized. And when I look at your business model, you have $100 million business, not a $10 million business. It's all relative. But because he's bought into this comparison, when you compare down too much, you don't realize that there's a greater area of growth that's possible. And I love that you're obsessed with that because there is no ceiling at that point. And so most leaders, no matter how successful they are, if I take an opportunity to kind of look at them and I realize that they are underutilizing their potential, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're making 500 million a year. You could probably make double, triple that if that's your measure of success. But more importantly, let's look behind the scenes. How's the rest of your life? How's your health? How's your relationship? I was helping another guy who was he's the marketing of this startup that he was part of, and he had vested interest. And so, however, if the company did well, he did even better. So he brought me on because I was referred to him, and I was like, "Hey, I need to hit this number for the company and stuff like that. Can you help me?" I said, "Well, do you have direct impact and influence on the company's growth?" I'm the marketing guy. Of course I do. I'm like, great. And so I'm working with him and I'm realizing something. He used to be an athlete, but he was completely overweight and all these medications just to manage his stress and all these things that happens as a result of stress.
Mhm.
Totally disconnected from his wife, on the verge of divorce. Barely knows his kids and they're small. They're like toddlers and infants and stuff like that. I mean, they can talk and everything, but they're really small and they're staying at home. And so he felt so that was his life. And he says, no, as soon as I hit that number, I'll start showing up to my boys' soccer games. I'll start doing that. I'm like, so for the first 6 months, all we focused on was working on him and focusing on his relationship at home and focusing on him actually, going home, right? I was like, let's set a goal. Let's set a goal that's not just money. How many soccer games do you want to go to in your son's next soccer season? It's like, half of them, just half? You don't want all of them? It's like, I would love to go to all of them. I don't know if I can. Okay, well, let's set that as a goal and see what happens. 6 months in, because it was a year-long engagement, he says, he calls me up and then he goes, "How did you know?" I'm like going, "Is that where we are right now? We don't even say hello?" It's like, "Hey, what's going on, John?" He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Wei." I was like, "Hi, what's up?" Well, we just had our quarterly meeting, and I was just about to call you afterwards to fire you. I'm like, Is that why you're calling me now?" He says, "But let me tell you, I walked out of that quarterly meeting just really confused." I was like, "Why?" because we hit our goal for the year already that we had planned, we had set. And I said, okay, congrats. What's the problem?
Right.
How's that a problem? And then he goes, but you and I didn't work on anything on my business this first half of the year. I was like, so what are you learning from this? He goes, I'm not quite sure that I'm the reason why everything is like, yeah, but let's look at the rest of your life. How are your kids? It's like, oh my God, Wei, I told you the other day, I went home and for the first time ever, they ran to me saying, Daddy's home. And I was like, how does that feel?
So
It's like $1 million. Is it worth more than the money the goal that you hit for the company? He goes, kind of. Says, I hear you and the wife are going on a trip away and having your parents take care of the kids. He goes, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. How's that going? It's like, well, we're not getting a divorce. I'm like going, fantastic. It's like, and then he's working out, he's losing weight, all these different things. People don't realize that the reason why we focus so much on human beings, even on the corporate business side level, is that at the root of it all, the success or failure of any company that's run by human beings is the human beings. It's not the SAP, it's not the applications, it's not the tools, it's not the product, it's not the service. It's the human being behind it all.
I love that story so much. As you were shedding some light onto that gentleman's life and him crushing his goals and essentially getting his life back, I I just sit back and think we, not to get spiritual, but we are spiritual beings, okay? And the three evergreen categories: health, wealth, and love. And if we put all of our time, effort, and energy into work or success or wealth, one might say, and these two buckets over here are just depleted, completely empty, I think something is missing. And I don't think we're allowed to actually show up as our best self in the wealth category because these two buckets over here are again depleted. And it's so interesting to me with this story how he actually stepped back from work. He focused on health and love and his kids, family, right? And somehow magically he was able to actually crush his work goals. Like, yes, that is effing awesome because I, personal story, recently burnt out, self-sabotaged my entire business, broke up with my long-term girlfriend, went on this horrible, again, self-destruction path. And all I did was work during that time, right? Now I have not I still prioritize work, of course, but I take care of myself. I go to the gym. I focus on going out and being social, where before I was antisocial. And I have never been so happy in my life. And like I'm still obviously working, still being productive, but when I was working those 12 to 14-hour days, I felt like this isn't it. Like sure, I was productive, but like I wasn't happy,
Yeah.
you know?
No,
And
I
what's the point of
love
all
that.
that
Yeah.
money if you're not happy, you know?
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, what you said was very important. I mean, the health, the wealth, what we say in our camp is love and perfect self-expression, right? Because when we're not able to perfectly self-express, love can't happen either because we don't know how to love ourselves or to express ourselves in a way that aligns with others to be able to love us, right? How do we love other people if we don't even know how to love ourselves properly?
Mm.
So when that's missing, it's like taking a leg away from a stool. It's again, physics and nature at work. 3 points determines a physical plane. 2 points alone allows it's two-dimension reality. And that can't happen. It's not functional for a human being because we live in a three-dimensional reality. So when we violate the law of three, which is three-dimensional reality, by the simple health, wealth, and love or perfect self-expression, yeah, that's why it's a burnout track because you're constantly trying to stay balanced in a 3D world with a two-dimensional reality within yourself that you've created.
That's so interesting because a long time ago, I've heard that saying, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. I'm like, oh, that's so cheesy. That's so cliche. And now I completely get it. And that is so true. That is so freaking true. And you have to. And I don't care if you think it's cheesy or corny, it's facts. Okay?
Well, yeah, it's actually not quite cheap. The reason why people say it's that way because we don't understand what that actually means, right? When you love yourself, it's not like you go get a massage or blah blah blah. It's not just physical love to yourself, right? It's an understanding, a deep innate understanding of what it means to educate the world around you about who or what you are. How can you expect anybody to love you if you can't even articulate to them what you are? What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? What is your nature? What lights you up? What actually takes energy away from you? If the person you're wanting to love you can't even see you demonstrate to them like a demo, hey, this is how you love me. Let me show you. That's self-love. Self-love is a way to demonstrate to others, hey, this is how you love me, right?
Yeah.
If I like to work out and it's part of my self-love protocol, and if you truly love me, you are not gonna get in the way of my workout routine. In fact, you might join me on my workout. You might say, "Hey, honey, you seem a little kind of overworked. Why don't you go to the gym for a little bit?" You know? "I'll have your shake ready when you get home," right?
No, for sure. That kind of correlates with the next question. So you say that by understanding ourselves more, and by understanding we understand other people more, which allows us to resolve conflict quicker and without screaming and fighting, essentially. And why do you feel like that is?
So, what going back to our technology, what it affords a human being to do is to objectively, not subjectively based on what our parents tell us, society tells us, the culture tells us, objectively understand ourselves. So the first step is once you objectively understand yourself, you're gonna recognize, "Holy cow, I am unique and different," which creates this little switch of perspective that means somebody else is not me and they're unique and different too. And so all of a sudden, instead of cloaking them on your own value system of subjectivity and judging them that way, now you're seeking to understand what is the uniqueness that they bring to the table that's different from me. I know I'm this way. I don't look like that person. So there must be something unique about that person, right? Now, the next step of when everybody goes on this journey of understanding about themselves, the next step is in how do I articulate to the world my true nature?
Mm,
So when I tell them this is what I look like in my strong state, this is what I look like in my weak state, right? Then you explain that to somebody. And this is how so for a period of time, I ended up, a lot of entrepreneur clients that I've had have kids. So I ended up working a lot with a lot of what we call red zone kids. They're doing drugs, drinking alcohol, ideations of suicide, all those different things. And so I've had a period of time where I was working with all these kids that had that. And you know what? Kids are some of the easiest to work with because they haven't had a lifetime of layers and distortions stacked on top of their perspective on life.
mhm.
All I needed to do was have them take the assessment, have them see the results, explain it to them, and then teach them how to explain it to others. And they were done. They stopped doing drugs. They stopped drinking. They stopped wanting to leave the planet. I literally had a client like 2 weeks in, he stopped talking about suicide because he goes, well, that's stupid. Now I understand why I felt so off. Everybody, including my parents and teachers, are pushing me to be this type of human when I'm in fact this type of human. I said, great. Now let's give you the language on how to explain this to them so they don't keep trying to push you in that other box. And they're like, so easy. Why don't they teach us in school? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they should,
No,
right?
absolutely. I guess a follow-up question with that. So imagine I'm 26-year-old male. I work in corporate. I just take your assessment. Should I articulate this to my boss, or should
Yeah.
I
Oh,
keep that
holy
kind
cow.
of secret? Yeah, how would that work in
No.
corporate?
I mean, it depends on how open your boss is.
Right.
Like, I do have I've had clients who are bosses were very closed-minded, and so we had to create a different strategy on how to optimize their workplace. See, what happens a lot of times in the workplace, especially if the employees take it first and the leaders don't know, this is why I say start with the leadership down because you can create a very cool culture in your workplace. When people take the assessment, they will learn what activities they're naturally designed to do and to maintain optimal performance, what activities to not engage in. There's certain people that are absolute taskmasters, right? This comes from the energetic trait. Alex Hormozy is one of them, right? He can wake up and just go. That's why
Mm,
he's a gym bro. I mean, a lot of gym bros are have that energetic trait. They're total doers. It's a doing trait. But then there are people who are strategists, right? You have a little bit of that in you as well. Okay. It's right next to that sympathetic. It's the part of you that is very quick to figure out what's not working, identify what's not working, figure things out, and solve problems before other people. Like sometimes the world spins a little bit too slow for you. You're like, dude, I got this already. Where's the rest of you? And that's where impatience kicks up, right? Impatience kicks up because of that perceptive trait. But that is a thinking trait. It's not a doing trait. It is great at strategy, identify what's not working, but it's not as adept at execution as someone with the energetic trait. Now, we're multifaceted. So if you have the perceptive and you have the energetic trait, that's great. You can identify what's not working and you can go in there and fix it, right? But let's say you don't, and all you have is like the regal trait, which is the natural born leader, and you have the perceptive. So now you're a strategic leader and you're in a role that where you're in the trenches doing all day. Well, once you learn this about yourself, you could go to your boss and say, "Hey, I'm actually better at delegating and putting together these high-level strategies to solve the problems. Can we put this on my career track to eventually get there? Because that's what I'm naturally designed to do." Now, hopefully, this boss is understands HumanOp and says, "So you're regal and perceptive. Great. Yeah, let's definitely do that." A lot of my clients who are founders, who are CEOs and everything like that, once they fully integrated HumanOp into their ecosystem, they stop creating generic roles. They start looking at the human beings, at their HumanOp results, then creating a custom role based on the activities they're naturally designed to thrive in, and then define it for that individual. Now you've got all these custom jigsaw pieces, this puzzles, just makes it this beautiful mosaic of what the company's all about.
That is so effing cool. That is I can just imagine the organization working entirely different than any other organization. And because they're all playing to their strengths, scale, they unlock an entirely new level of scale.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, leaders who are like struggling with people not helping them think and about next steps and everything like that. Well, you might have the wrong people in the wrong positions. You might have a
Right.
punter playing quarterback and a quarterback playing running back. All we often do is just, it's not like the office space. It's like, oh, consultants are coming. I'm going to lose my job. No, it's more like we come in and we say, let's take a look at what we need to shuffle around because you might have people in the wrong positions, right? Because it's so much easier to work within than have to spend all that money hiring, right? So we optimize the existing workforce, optimize the roles and the position and the tasks, truly identify where the gaps are. And if there's someone who can temporarily fill that gap, we'll do that, but with the intention of finding someone who is better suited for that gap. And then that way, once you fill in all the gaps, scaling becomes a limitless possibility.
Absolutely. And I could definitely see it happening. Wait, how do you see human op reshaping leadership development over the next decade?
I mean, we've been already doing it for the last couple of decades, but I would love to see this like being right up there with every. So we've worked with a few boutique VCs who's used us like a secret weapon, right? Of trying to optimize their founding team. But in terms of leadership and everything like that, even within leadership teams, there are certain leaders that are in the wrong roles, right? And they are better suited to be in operations versus in marketing, or they're better suited to be in sales versus, operations, right? And so when it comes to leadership training, not only training them to understand themselves and optimize their role and their focus within the organization so they don't burn out, because, employee burning out is a statistical anomaly that we have to figure out how to fix that. When a leader burns out, there's collateral damage that comes with that. There's a big ripple effect. So that's why we always want to have, let's start with the leadership team. Let's optimize the leadership team. Let's have them all leaning into what's going to make sure that they can be relied on to have long-term sustainable performance. So they're engaged. And then through doing that in and of itself, because they will understand how that technology works, they will naturally apply that towards all their people in their groups and their organizations and their teams and everything like that. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, take advantage of the fact that we've made that pivot, and finally my dream of being able to get this in the hands of as many human beings as possible for free just to get started. Go to HumanUp. Go if you're local to us in Cupertino, or if you ever come in town, Jordan, come by every Thursday night. I run a free workshop just to teach people how to use their results to solve everyday problems. We have this really beautiful community of all these peace seekers that are looking to get disconnected from the matrix in the Silicon Valley area. So a lot of powerful people, but also a lot of heart-centered people. So take the assessment, dive deep on it, take the time for yourself to go through the results. Reach out to me. I'm not difficult to get a hold of. I'm at a point in my life right now where all I want to do is help as many people as possible. It's not about building an empire anymore. And really just take advantage of the fact that we have this really expensive technology that we've done for years now available to everyone. Yeah, because we made the pivot just last year and everything, the interface might be a little clunky, but we're constantly updating it. We're constantly upgrading it. But get in now because once it gets better and better, if you want to do the premium version, for example, it just gets higher and higher because our authentic intelligence engine just keeps getting better and better at being like the ultimate life companion and chatting with you and supporting you and helping you answer questions on how to use your vehicle of self to create the best life for yourself.
I think parents should pass this to their kids. Leadership should obviously pass this down to their organizations. Like I truly do believe that everyone needs to know more about themselves. How can I max myself out? And some of us,
Yeah,
I'm sure you can testify to this. Some of
sustainably.
us,
Yeah, how can I max myself out sustainably?
right, without crashing into the wall or anything like that.
Right.
Anyways, Wei, again, I really appreciate you. Audience, thanks for tuning in. And then did you leave
My
your
pleasure.
website? I guess what's the app called? Is it called HumanOp?
Yeah, it's HumanOp, HumanOp, which is short for human optimization. You go to humanop.com, which we finally were able to buy. God, it was so expensive when it first came out.
Sure.
And you can go to the App Store or the Android Store, HumanOp, download it right now, version 3.0, which is at the time of this recording. The app is optimized for the web. When version 4.0 comes out by the end of this quarter, it's going to be so much better for the mobile. So yeah, we're constantly iterating, constantly evolving, but get in now before it gets really, really kind of out there. So,
All right.
but yeah,
Awesome. Wei, again, thank you, audience. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time.